Hey chaps. Now, bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is something that most young men, I think, are into, but just as with most of the average populace, most people approach it from a POV that is inspired by sort of goy slop, alright? And fucking idiot pundits. Don't really know much about it. So, I'm gonna teach you how to lift. Now, in general, you go to the gym and you look around, and it's just sort of people with broccoli head doing fucking 4 sets of fucking cardio, like, I better get that busted set. I better get that pump. I'm gonna come. And they do like fucking 4 sets with two minutes of rest in between. They're basically doing fucking cardio, to be honest. And they're like, I'm making no bussing gains for real. Sheesh. And you wonder why are you not making any gains? You're doing what Arnold did when he gets the pump and he's going ground. But the reason is because they are training like a walking vaginas. You see, what stimulates growth in muscle is a little thing called going to failure, because it provides a stimulus to the muscles to actually, adapt into getting big. Yeah, baby. So you can't do that through doing fucking cardio. And basically blood pumping exercises. You need to actually train to fucking failure. So that's called sort of more intense training as opposed to the volume training that these goobers do. And the real basis of it is like, just like with all fucking good philosophical approaches to shit, is to have consistent axioms, and in HIIT, it's in the name, intensity. So when you take lifting with this approach, you just need to make sure that every damn set you do is to failure. And this is because what stimulates growth is not the sets you do that just sort of get you a bit closer. It's the final ones where you're like, really trying to get in there. And you really, like, you feel like you're going to strain and give yourself a hemorrhoid. That's the one, those are the reps. They're going to give you, like, actual gains. Now, yeah, as my mentor said, it's like, the most, man, what's the quote? The last most fucking painful reps which you do, the ones where you're like, the ones where you make goofy faces, they're the ones that are stimulating the growth, not the first, like, 7 where you're just like, obviously you shouldn't be doing it with that kind of form, but whatever. Now, yeah, they're the ones that stimulate growth. And your approach should really be not just to train a bunch, it should be to train hard. You should less is more. You need to do the minimum possible number of sets that you need in order to reach failure, to reach genuine muscular failure, to the point where, like, if you were to do another set, you're dropping, like, the number of reps you do by like 4. You're like, I do 11 sets the first set. You wait like 6 minutes, like fucking 5 minutes or 4 minutes. If after 4 minutes you can't do like maybe 1 or 2 less reps, you're done with that muscle group just completely. Now, depending on your experience or how used you are to training intensely, this can take 3 sets. Generally, it's going to be like 2. 1 if you're really fucking getting in there. If you're getting Dorian Yates, training so hard, your asshole's turning inside out. All right. Definitely don't do 4 sets. If you're doing 4 sets, reconsider your life. Just do however many it takes to obliterate the muscle, fucking sodomizing that muscle, without sort of doing a whole shit ton of sets and making yourself sick. Tom Platz, he trains intense, but he does a lot of fucking reps and sets. A natty trainer is just gonna go way into, you're eating into your recovering ability by doing so many sets. You're just sort of doing more damage than good. A natty trainer, I don't have experience with enhanced lifting, but naturally speaking, you shouldn't do absurd amounts of volume. So yeah, you need recovery basically, and recovery isn't exclusive to just the muscle group you're training. So if you do, say, a set to complete fucking failure, like a superset of like chest flies into the bench press, you can't just immediately after go and do fucking like bicep curls, because even though you're training a different muscle group, you're not recovered, because the recovery is not just localized to your fucking boobs when you do that shit. You need to actually recover in more ways than just that local area. You need to recover also your fucking ATP stores. Now, I'm not much of a science guy, but yeah, your energy is not just localized to the muscle, it's like all throughout. Your whole system needs to recover. So you should definitely do like at least 4 minutes of rest. I do 5, but you can do more. Between every set. Even if they're like unrelated muscle groups, pretty much. If you're doing like upper lower shit, you know? Doing every set, yep. You also gotta catch your breath. If you're out of breath, you gotta wait a bit longer. I got asthma, and I smoke before lifting, so it takes a bit longer to recover between sets and shit. So yeah. Another important thing is, when people think of lifting intensely, they might think of lifting heavy, but that's not necessarily the case. I myself, I'm not very strong. I'm 60 kilograms, so you can't expect me to lift much. But I still do the maximum weight I can without breaking down my form. So you really shouldn't ego lift, except like when you're like once you reach failure, you can do like cheat reps. You can do like cheat reps to go even beyond failure. What is most important when performing these reps is just the intensity. So the first sets you should do like fucking just full range of motion. You need to do absolute full range of motion, because your muscle needs to adapt. Your muscle adapts to whatever you're doing, and you want your muscle to adapt to doing the full range of motion, because that way you can get the most like time under tension and all those key words, you know, all those buzzwords, shit like that. Something that some people don't seem to understand, especially like power shitters, is you are on the concentric, it's called, where you're lifting it up. You are stronger than when you're holding it at the top. No. You're weaker than when you hold it at the top, and that is weaker than when you're lowering it. So it's like you're strongest when you're lowering it, you're in the middle when you're holding it, and you're the weakest when you're lifting it up. So to account for that, you should be spending more time, more time lowering it than you do lifting it up, to account for the fact that you're stronger when lowering it, so that it is the same intensity both ways. So say you did like 2 seconds up, 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, and then when you lower it, it should be like 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, 3 hippopotamus. Yeah, you want to do that. Mike Mensa says to do 4 seconds up, 2 seconds hold, 4 seconds down, which you can do. I don't do it myself, because I find that I'm a decent amount stronger on lowering it than lifting it, on the eccentric. So yeah, that's something you want to keep into account if you want to train fucking intense, baby. Another thing is, when you do compound lifts, which you should do, like bench press, if you do lat pull downs, oftentimes when you do these, what fails first, what's the limiting factor, is often not the one you want to focus on when you're doing that lift. So for instance, when I do lat pull downs, if I were to just do lat pull downs, what causes me to fail would generally be my forearms or biceps. Now, that means you're not really training the lats, which obviously you're trying to do with lat pull downs. And in order to account for that, you can target the lats by pre-exhausting them, so that they are the ones that fail first, and are therefore taken to or beyond failure by the lift. So to pre-exhaust, you do like a superset. So for lats, for instance, you do lat pull downs, no, straight on push downs, fucking to failure, maybe not beyond because you kind of overtrain, to failure. Go do another one. All right, immediately go to the lat pull down and start doing lat pull downs. It can be bothered, you can set up straps, but your lats are already pre-exhausted enough that your forearms aren't going to be limiting it, so straps are not really necessary. Same with bench press and like chest flies. You do a set of chest flies to failure. Oh fuck. You do a set of chest flies to failure, and then you run to the bench, or you do like incline dumbbell or just regular bench press, fucking in like 3 to 5 reps. Something that's heavy enough, when you're pre-exhausted, that you can only do like 3 to 5 reps, because if you do too many reps, you might like you might overtrain. But also I do drop sets, so on top of that, which is where you sort of, you pre-exhaust to failure, and then you go to failure, then you do the superset of like the bench to failure, and then once you failed on the bench, drop some weight off and get like 2 or 3 more reps in, and that'll really fucking obliterate the muscle. Like, your boobies are going to be sore after doing that. Like, my boobies are always sore. It's messed up. So yeah. Let's see. When you do this, it really fucking obliterates the muscle. So you only really need to do 1 or 2 sets of that. Nah, don't do 3 fucking supersets. You're gonna go so... When you train, you dig a tiny hole. Imagine you're digging a tiny hole, and then your recovery is you filling that hole and filling a bit more. However, when you overtrain, you dig way too deep of a hole, so that your recovery only doesn't even... Either just fills it so it's equal, or like doesn't even fill it enough. That's how it works, basically. Alright? Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, there are muscles that are, even when doing supersets, are already trained enough, which you don't really need to do individual lifts for. Like, you don't need to train your traps if you're doing deadlift already, alright? Or like, well, basically anything. Don't like isolate your traps. You kind of don't need to isolate your forearms, because they're already going to be fucking sodomized by deadlift or cable rows. Yeah, you don't need to isolate them. You're just going to impede the recovery of the forearms. In fact, you're probably going to lose gains from doing that. You're already trained enough, especially even with pre-exhaustion. Yeah. Now another important thing is the split you do. You can do whatever split you can do that doesn't make you overtrain. So you can kind of figure it out through trial and error, because it's kind of different for every person. Like how often you should train stuff per week. I myself train every other day. Say my training week begins on Monday. On Monday, I do pull and legs. One set of each exercise. Well, one superset of each exercise. And then the next Tuesday, I rest. Wednesday, I do push. And then on Thursday, I rest. And then on Friday, I do the pull and legs again. It's just like a cycle. That 4-day cycle is what I do, which I find works very well. I've experimented with trying to do a bit more than that, but I just find myself making myself sick through overtraining. So yeah, if you're training especially intensely, you might even need to do even less than that. Yeah, you just do that ad infinitum. Another thing is, I go to the gym and I see a lot of young men, maybe even boys, guys who are my age, doing like stretching before the gym and like mobility stuff, like doing that thing where you hold a dumbbell and do this. Now, if you're a pink panty wearing CrossFitter, I can understand, CrossShitter, I can understand doing that, because you need like mobility to be able to do that clean and jerking off like more easily or something. But if you're training for bodybuilding, you already stretched through doing a full range of motion. I mean, you should be lowering it all the way and fucking stretching it, and same with contracting it. So you already get enough stretching. If you're like an old man, then by old man I mean like, I don't know, in your 30s. I don't know experience being an old man. You should probably stretch, because you have impeded mobility already, I guess. Not that I know much about it. All right, now as well, if you seriously need to make gains, if you're like, I'm in the same weight for the rest of my life, which is, what the fuck? All right, I'm not getting any weight. If you really want to gain weight, if you care about that, you should get like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal and track everything you eat. And you want to calculate your TDE, or like BMR, which is like how many calories you burn every day, and make sure you're in a few hundred calories over that. If you have too much over that, you're going to start getting fat and turning into, like a go mad power shitter, and you don't want to turn into that. So yeah, slight caloric surplus, and you should make steady gains, like steady, consistent gains. If you like eat an intense amount over, that's often like you start feeling sick all the time, and it's not really sustainable. Like you want to do things, you want to think in terms of long-term progress. So yeah, and on top of also with what you eat, generally, so people are like, oh, you gotta chug protein drinks all the time. The average person, all right, unless you're eating fucking bug slop zog chow, you usually get enough protein from what you eat. If you just eat meat every day, and like if you eat like meat and shit and just a normal diet that isn't fucking soylent and vegetarian wraps all day, then you should be getting enough protein. Like 0.8 grams per pound of body fat, or per pound of body weight. If you don't, if you just eat zog chow all the time, supplement with like protein, like with tuna and shit. If you're blessed with lactase production, you can just like milk and whey. Jesus Christ, you might be careful. You might turn into a lardo. But that is very good if you can, if you don't like shit yourself to death. Another important thing outside of the gym is to sleep enough, because I don't know the science, but I think you mainly recover when sleeping. So don't sleep 4 hours a day. Jocko Willink is like, you gotta sleep 3 hours a day, spend the entire day doing 100 sets of fucking carrying hundreds of kilograms across a desert, whatever he says. But he's a Navy SEAL, and they're all pumped full of roids. As a natural, you should sleep like 6 to like 9 hours a day, I'd say. That's John recovery. As well as that, like drinking. If you're trying to keep a deficit, maybe avoid alcohol, because alcohol is kind of dense, especially like beer. You'll turn into a fatso. You turn into a fat. If you're fat, don't drink alcohol. But if you are trying to gain weight, oh yeah, glug that alcohol, baby. It does impede recovery, which is not very good. But yeah, you want to avoid it if you can, I guess. On top of this, Epstein was murdered by the Clintons because he was trying to expose. Because he was capable of exposing the elites, and you should probably know that.